Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, this 5 o'clock hour, John McClain in the next segment. These podcasts, of course, segments available on YouTube, also on SicEm365.com and the various parts of the website. David Helman joins us. DallasCowboys.com on SicEm365 Radio. David, I've been watching kind of back and forth with some of the members of the media in Dallas. We've discussed Naomi Osaka and her decision of what she, eventually withdrew from the French Open. What have you looked into that much or talked much about it in the Dallas and Fort Worth area among others in the media?
I've had conversations about it just in my life because it's my job and it's obviously something that pertains to me. I haven't really formulated a take on it. I think, I'm probably boring for talk radio in that regard because I take a very practical approach to everything, or I try to at least. So I do see both sides of it. Obviously, access is important for our jobs and for fans trying to gain a better understanding of the teams and the people that they follow. But I absolutely respect Naomi's right to look after her mental health. And especially, during this year with Zooms and web press conferences, it can feel a little dehumanizing at times. So, I absolutely understand where she's coming from. And, there's got to be a middle ground where obviously access is important, but, I think we far too often lose sight of the fact that professional athletes are human beings. So, and college athletes as well, for that matter, athletes in general. Like I said, I think there's got to be a common ground. I can kind of see all sides of that argument. I don't really have a great answer for it.
David, you wrote about Blake Jarwin on the site this week on DallasCowboys.com, and he's coming back. Dalton Schultz had a surprising year with really very little expectation on Dalton Schultz. I think a lot of people had kind of been like, well, he kind of is what he is at that point, and he had a very good year. He fit into Mike McCarthy's offense very well. How does he fit, and how do he and Blake Jarwin fit together in Mike McCarthy's offense with all these healthy people coming back?
Maybe I'm – I try not to be biased because obviously you get to know these guys and Blake is a super good dude. But I just think the glimpses that we've seen from him over the years that he's been on the team, I am sky high about what he can be if he gets to play a full season. And in my opinion, Dalton Schultz's success is just a testament to that because all due respect to Dalton, I think Blake Jarwin is a better athlete and a more dynamic downfield threat than Dalton Schultz. And so, for Dalton Schultz to put up 600 yards, despite that, I think that just offers you a glimpse of what Jarwin could do if he saw that. And fortunately for the two of them, like a lot of other old school coaches, like Mike McCarthy has always loved 12 personnel, getting two tight ends on the field. They did it a lot last year. It was a staple of the time that Jason Garrett was the coach. It'll be interesting to see how they balance those two tight ends with all the wide receivers that they have. But I absolutely think there's plenty of room for both of those guys to have a role. And like I said, if Blake's healthy for a whole season, I really think he could be a breakout type of performer in an offense like this.
So, David, I've been traveling a little bit. I had seen something yesterday about, Malik Hooker and the Cowboys and was reading, I guess, when I arrived here earlier. Was that just a bunch of nonsense, not really anything to that at all, just more rumors, I suppose?
I don't want to go as far as to say it's nonsense. They visited with him. What I heard was that at that point in time, at least, they weren't sold on it from a medical perspective. Malik Hooker is a guy that's had a lengthy injury history. And obviously, they signed DeMonte Kazee, who's dealing with an injury of his own coming back from a torn Achilles. So I think maybe they figured, maybe we take a chance on one of these guys. Or it seems like, and not just the Cowboys, every team, you kind of look at your roster and evaluate, okay, do we really, are we ready to go into training camp with just what we have? And safety is an obvious situation where they don't have a ton. They got, Donovan Wilson, they signed Kazee, and they also signed Jaron Kearse to a very small deal, but these aren't guys that they're committed to at all. So I guess never say never, but I don't have the inkling that that's going to happen imminently, if at all.
I saw a response you had to somebody on Pro Football Focus about the June 1st date when it comes to salary cap considerations, post June 1st releases or whatever else. And you made the comment that Jaylon Smith is more valuable with the Cowboys than what they could get for him. What does that actually say?
It says a lot about what you would get in return in that trade, which, let's be honest, not a lot. That article, it's actually a very informative article, just kind of detailing for anybody that's curious about how that works. You know, to simplify it, the June 1st designation just means that you can spread Jalen's guarantees over 2 years instead of one. So, you know, cutting him before June 1st would cost you, and I'm spitballing here, but something like $13 million. And then, you know, cutting him tomorrow, you can average that out over 2 years, so it hits you for $9 million and $7 million. It's just a bookkeeping tactic. But then, you know, you look at a deal like that. Obviously, Jaylon Smith is a very expensive player, and he didn't play like he was worth it last year. So what is the team going to be willing to give up? Pro Football Focus theorized that you could maybe get a 5th-round pick for Jaylon Smith. Again, because who wants to take on a lot of money for a not that good player? And my only point is, you can say whatever you want about Jaylon Smith. He's more valuable to the Cowboys on the field than a 5th-round pick in next year's draft. He just is. And that's not to say he played great, but, you know, he's a 5th-year linebacker with 50 career starts and 500 tackles. Like, that is valuable. It might not be it might not be worth the contract that he's on, but that money's already been spent. So, you know, I'd rather have him available to play games than a day 3 pick, which history suggests is likely not going to be worth that much.
Plus, he'll be faster without that extra number on his jersey weighing him down. Like when you go.
Absolutely.
No.
It's science.
5 and 4 equals 9.
But it's one jersey, so it's one. It's less fabric on fabric. So that's.
Look, was it? I think it was Dion that said, like, look good, play good. I mean, if anything that can help Jaylon Smith rediscover his old form, I'm all in favor.
Is there any scuttlebutt on veteran quarterback?
I mean, the Cowboys have made it really obvious that they're not satisfied by the situation. You know, you don't bring multiple guys in for workouts if you're happy with what you got. And, you know, Mike McCarthy even said back before the draft that they would love to add somebody to the room. My thing is, at this point, who's out there that is definitively better than what's already there? Like I've said a million times, I would have absolutely signed Blake Bortles. And that's not to say that he's great, but, you know, he started a lot of games. He was on a playoff team. You know, you put him with the talent that's on this roster, I think he could at least help you stay afloat. But, you know, he's in Green Bay now, so it's a moot point. And, you know, I think last time I checked, like, Nick Mullins was still around, but is he definitively better than Garrett Gilbert? I don't necessarily think so. So, you know, like I said, I think they would love to do it. I don't think they have great options right now. It'll be interesting. Like I said, you know, teams love to shuffle their depth before training camp. You know, maybe if the right veteran came available before camp, maybe they would make a move. But I can't think of very many guys that are available right now that are definitely better than what they have.
When you look at the Cowboys receivers and who they have and how deep they are at that position, is Michael Gallup appreciated enough?
Oh, you chose my favorite topic. I mean, I definitely don't think so. Like, I feel like I'm kind of driving that bandwagon that Michael Gallup is a lot better than he gets credit for. You know, he never gets mentioned by the national outlets the way that Cooper and Lamb do. And I mean, you know, I think people are mainly trying to trade him because they've already resigned themselves to the fact that he's too good to re-sign here. But my whole thing is, you just never know. Like the degree to which things can change in a year in this league is insane. We see it all the time. And, you know, Amari's guarantees are done next year. You know, you can cut him starting next spring with incurring very little cost to the team. And that's not to say that I want to do that, but everybody always tries to write these storylines a year in advance, and it's just a mistake. Like we'll see how it plays out, but yeah, I mean, I think Michael Gallup is very underrated by the NFL at large, and if I had to guess, he's going to set himself up for a very nice payday next year, whether that's here or somewhere else.
And to follow up on that a little bit, I think a lot of people, you know, early on with Andy Dalton, they didn't really have a rapport, and then they got one later on. But like he and Dak, I think maybe of all the receivers, seem to me to be on the same page more than anyone else.
I mean, there's definitely something to that. They're buddies. They work out a lot. They get along great. The funny thing, I mean, the Cowboys were throwing so much because they were behind last year. Like, everybody had a great rapport with Dak before he got hurt. I mean, and again, it definitely wasn't sustainable because of the weird types of games they were playing. But all three of those receivers were on track for like 1,200 yards or more if that had kept up, which, it wasn't going to, but it's just a testament to how reliably Dak was getting the ball to all of them. But yeah, I mean, I think there's probably something to that. Dak and Gallup have had a pretty good little chemistry for a few years here now.
David Helman, thank you very much. David, appreciate your time.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
David Helman, SicEm365 Radio with us from DallasCowboys.com. And
I mean, there's not a lot of options. I mean, I actually was looking at a list of free agent quarterbacks, and it hasn't even been updated because it's still had Jameis Winston listed, and he made his decision a while back to stay with the Saints. But there's RG3. Let's see, is Brett Hundley available?
Yeah, and they've had him in twice.
Yeah.
And
oh, that's right. Yeah, they have. Brandon Allen, Matt Barkley. I mean, yeah, you're looking at kind of the same crop of guys who are probably about third stringers, maybe backups, but your opportunity for, the Andy Daltons and those types, that's pretty much gone now.
Yeah, and look, I think RG3 would be a fantastic option for the Cowboys, except for the fact that I know what their hang-up is. It has nothing to do with his ability. It's his ability to be available because, when he did...
Why do you need a backup quarterback? As insurance.
Yeah.
So if your insurance is somebody, unfortunately, that sometimes is hurt
and he got
injured.
He got to play for a good stretch last year, and what happened at the end of it? He got hurt.
Yeah.
And so, that was always the one knock on him was that, look, he still to this day is built like a hurdler. He's got a track body and a football body, and and look, Cam Newton's been plenty hurt, and he has an American Gladiator body. So, sometimes it's just the amount of physical punishment you take. So, I would love to see Robert get a shot there, but again, let's not be foolish enough to know why that probably hasn't come around for him yet, because teams are worried about his injury history.
Yeah.
Outside of that, there's no team in the NFL that's worried about his ability. Not one. They know what he can do. They know what his arm can do. They know what kind of passer he is. They know what he can do, especially in a backup role. They know what he can do in the locker room. They know what he can do as a backup, and especially to a younger quarterback.
And he's separated long enough from all the drama of what was said about him in Washington to where
he's 30 now. It's different.
Ask Baltimore what they thought of him.
Yeah.
Even though he's not there anymore, they liked him enough to bring him back for a second year.
Yeah, and
that's a pretty stable franchise.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's just they're worried that the backup quarterback's not supposed to get hurt. I mean, what happened to Andy Dalton